So today's discussion is about how exchange rate and balance of payment are kind of like interlinked. So the link between the exchange rate and the balance of payment, especially when the exchange rate is basically free floating. So when you look at a free floating exchange rate, remember in a free floating exchange rate, we saw that the exchange rate is determined through the market forces of demand supply. So just to quickly recap, we saw this that if your demand and supply is like this, we said this that the market force of demand supply will determine the exchange rate. Let's say this is your US value of pounds. So this is your quantity of, let's say, pounds. So we're dealing with pounds as a currency, and the exchange rate with demand and equal to is equal to supply is determining our equilibrium exchange rate. Now, demand is all your exports, right? Supply is your imports. We said whenever there is whenever people are demanding more of our goods, the demand for our currency also goes up. Similarly, when we are buying foreign goods, that is when we are supplying pounds. So demand for currency is your exports, and supply of your currency is your import. So I'm saying demand and supply, wherever it's equal, you get your equilibrium exchange rate. So that's the story for the free floating exchange rate. Now, building on this argument, the demand and supply is equal, I can say this that basically all your uh, credit side of your balance of payment means inflows. And remember, we used to record it with a positive value, while all your debit side is your outflow. And we are recording it as your negative. And debit and credit, if it's equal, then the BOP must balance to zero. BOP must balance to zero because all the money that is coming in is equal to money that's going out. Now, debit side and credit side also means that if there's credit happening, I can say this that, for example, if you have money coming in or inflows, uh, this is also your demand for pounds because every time money is coming into the country, people are demanding your currency to undertake those transactions, be it financial transaction or be it current account transactions, so on and so forth, right? And debit side basically means supply of pounds. Why supply of pounds? Because your when people, let's say if somebody is undertaking a transaction, let's say a UK resident is buying a Japanese car, he will be supplying pounds. And when you have a fixed exchange rate, a floating exchange rate system, demand and supply is equal. So what I'm trying to say is this that if you have a floating exchange rate system, let me write this, in a floating ER, demand equals supply of the currency. And that is why you have an exchange rate that is determined through demand equals supply, right? Which means all the inflows must equal outflows, which means what I'm saying to you is this: the credit side of the balance of payment must equal the debit side of the balance of payment, which means that a BOP must always balance. Is it always? And the answer is theoretically, it should always be the case. Okay, Haris, is it always the case? And the answer is theoretically, this should always be the case. So let's look at some cases of this scenario, okay, and see how does it balance to zero. So what if I say, let's say interest rates go up. So interest rates, let's call it R, okay, R goes up. If interest rate goes up, what happens in an economy? We say, well, interest rate goes up, hot money flows into the economy. So let me write this: hot money flows into the economy. If hot money flows into the economy, basically results in um, um, Haris, can you do me a favor? Can you write your whatever you're writing to everyone so that whenever I'm answering your question or any concern, I am actually also answering everyone. Okay. Anyone who's writing a comment should write it to everyone rather than to me, because that will actually allow me to address that question, which will be helping everyone else to learn as well. So guys, if interest rates are going up, hot money is flowing into the economy. If hot money is flowing into the economy, basically that means uh, your your financial account your financial account will be in a surplus. Okay, so your BOP was equal to 0, right? And suddenly your financial account is in a surplus. If your financial account in a surplus, how will that affect our economy? Well, if financial account is in a surplus, you are looking at a case that BOP is now not 0, but probably positive 20. Okay, is greater than 0 figure, for example, because hot money is frozen. But there's also something else that will happen because this is a free floating exchange rate system we're looking at. When the hot money flows in, that's what we learned uh, from our class, that demand for pounds will start to go up. Why? Because interest rates are going up, hot money is flowing into the economy, demand for pounds will go up, and supply of pounds will go down. Why? Because foreign so demand for pounds is going up because foreigners are putting more of their dollars in UK, so they're demanding more of pounds. Similarly, UK residents are also putting more money, less money abroad and more money in the UK. So both of these factors will cause the exchange rate to go up. That's what we learned last time when we did factors affecting interest rates, exchange rate. So when the exchange rate goes up, I know this, exports become expensive, imports become cheaper, and that means my x minus m goes down, which means a financial account surplus is leading to a current account deficit. And that in turn means you have a plus 20 there, you will have a balance of payment to become, let's say, minus 20, which means the current account deficit is matching financial account surplus, causing the balance of payment, BOP, to balance. So there is an automatic balancing happening here. Did we use any reserve? And the answer is no, because in this case, the BOP automatically balanced back to 0. Does that make sense? So one of the features that we say of a floating exchange system is that it can make the balance of payment to automatically balance to 0 theoretically. I'm saying theoretically because sometimes the government intervenes and doesn't let that happen. I want to give you another example. Before I move on, is there any question about this example? Any question that is bothering us about this one? So let me recap this example one more time so that we can have an understanding. We said, what if BOP is 0 and suddenly interest rate goes up? If interest rate goes up, we know hot money is flowing into the economy. Where does this hot money comes or get parks? This hot money is always put into the short-term monetary flows, in our balance of payment. So financial account suddenly will show improvement because of the fact that this money is coming into the financial account. So financial account will show improvement, and it will show the short-term monetary flows will be in a surplus. So suddenly, when you started off, you had a balance of payment which was 0, and now you have a balance of payment which is actually positive. How do we so there is an imbalance that's created, right? But at the same time, because the hot money is flowing into the country, because interest rates are going up, you will see the exchange rate to go up as well. And that exchange rate going up would mean current account, which was right now in a balance, will actually start to show a negative number. Current account will go in a deficit. So your financial account was in a surplus. Now current account is in a deficit, and that financial account surplus is matched by current account deficit, causing the balance of payment to basically become 0. Okay, another good example of this could be, what if I tell you guys this, that BOP is 0? Okay, second example, BOP is 0. And what if suddenly demand for exports go up? If demand for exports go up, X minus M will improve, and your current account will suddenly be surplus. So let's write it. Current account is in surplus, causing your balance of payment to become greater than zero. But because your exports are going up, one could also argue this, that your demand for pounds will go up. If demand for pounds go up, one could argue also this, that exchange rate will go up. And that exchange rate going up will cause your exports to become expensive, imports to become cheaper, and therefore X minus M to start to fall. Because some of the adjustment will take place automatically because your exchange rate is going up, and that X minus M, when it goes down, your current account is, or rather will, fall till BOP equals zero, which means your currency will stabilize and balance of payment will stabilize till we don't have a surplus anymore. We will have a balance of payment to become back to zero. So the advantage of this is this, that we didn't tap our reserves at all in this case, because your balance of payment was automatically balancing. So I wrote this here. Let's go back to our notes. That in a free floating exchange rate, the balance of payment would automatically balance. The credit side of the balance of payment constitute the demand for pounds, because it's all the money inflows. Okay. For example, when people buy UK exports, they will demand pounds in order for them. The debit side constitutes the supply of pounds. For example, when UK residents buy foreign goods, they require foreign currency and therefore supply of pounds. So in a floating exchange rate, the demand for pounds equals supply. Demand equals supply, and that means the balance of payment must balance. Why? Because let's say, and I give this example, I just explained this. Suppose initially that each part of the balance of payment separately balance. Okay, so if BOP is equal to zero, now let's assume when interest rates go up. So when the interest rates are going up, you can see this, there will be hot money flowing into the economy, which means financial account will go into a surplus and the exchange rate will go up. So when the interest rate goes up, exchange rate goes up and financial account is in surplus. And because the exchange rate goes up, this will cause imports to become cheaper and exports to become expensive, and the current account will go in a deficit, which means any financial account surplus is matched by an equal current account deficit. So a surplus elsewhere will cause a deficit elsewhere, and BOP to automatically balance. So that's the argument that we raise, that in a free floating exchange rate, BOP automatically balances without much of intervention. And the reason is very simple, because of the fact that any inflow causes the exchange rate to appreciate, which can lead to an outflow elsewhere. Does that make sense, everyone? Are we good? Any questions? If we are good, I want to give you another example. Let me just do another example. But any questions, guys? Anything that doesn't make sense? Okay, let's do another example. What if interest rates are going down? Okay, abhi BOP balance, BOP is in a balance, and let's say suddenly interest rate goes down. What will happen? When interest rate goes down, basically first thing is this, that your hot money flows out. Okay, when hot money flows out, financial account, it will be in a deficit. Exactly. When financial account is in a deficit, you BOP is now less than zero or negative. But because hot money is flowing out, we also know this, that exchange rate will fall. And when the exchange rate goes down, exports become cheaper, imports become expensive, and that your X minus M will start to go up, which means current account will be in a surplus. Exactly. So your financial account deficit is leading to a current account surplus, and that basically means your balance of payment will balance to zero. The question that we need to ask, is it always true? And the answer is theoretically it's always true, but sometimes it's not as easy as what we are putting in theory. There are a lot of government interventions, there are a lot of information, there's a lot of reaction time that happens, which may not let it be so seamless to happen. But theoretically, we say that when you have a free floating exchange rate system, the balance of payment must always balance to zero, because all the inflows must always match the outflow if demand and supply of the currency is equal. If D equals S, inflows equals outflow, you will not have an issue. So this demand for pound is not only exports, I can say demand for pound is all the inflows, and supply of pound is all the outflows. And so the demand and supply equal means outflows must equal inflows, and therefore your currency is coming to an equilibrium at E naught. Does that make sense, guys? Are we good? I guess we are sorted with this discussion because I don't see any questions coming. I want to do the next part, fixed exchange rate, but I ended this last here with the other class, so I'm going to sort of end on this note. But if you have any questions, please ask me right now. Otherwise, we are sorted for the day, guys.